Making maple syrup can be a fun and fairly easy process. With a few trees and a little work, you can produce enough sugary goodness to add to your pancakes, waffles, ice cream, roast, and old fashions. You can also grow your operation to a point where you can make decent money selling syrup to others. Or maybe you don't really care much about maple syrup and you're just interested in a fun springtime hobby. I love this time of year, to get out of the house and walk through the woods, as it is warming up from its winter freeze. The weather may be variable from feet of snow to mud to dry ground, but that's something that adds to the adventure. And there does need to be change in weather for successful maple sap collection. Look for a period of time with nights below freezing and sunny days where the temp is around 40. The sap is actually flowing up the tree in the sun, and it does flow down as it cools. A cloudy, windy season without freezing nights will greatly diminish your sap collection. When the time is right, with warming days in the forecast, all you have to do is put a tap in a tree, a maple tree. Now this may seem simple to identify a sugar maple tree, but when collecting sap in the spring, there are no leaves to give you a clear visual of what tree you are looking at. So you have to know the difference in bark and tree structure. Mistakes can be made, and the best way to avoid this is marking the tree in the fall. As you spend more time in the woods, you will soon know which maple trees produce the most.
Tapping on this side because this is the sunny side. And this tree is just about the right size for 2 taps, but maybe once every couple of years we put 2 on, otherwise 1.
You can really tap a maple tree anywhere and you will get sap, but an experienced collector is more precise. Look for a nice root or a main branch on the tree and tap in line with that for the best flow. It is best to avoid tapping in line with an old tap. These old tap sites are like scars on the trees, and you want to avoid putting them too close together or you could choke the tree eventually.
Yep, like that.
You also want to look over the tree for other issues like woodpecker or squirrel holes that may disrupt the flow of sap. There are different kinds of taps, actually called spiles, but no one calls them this. Spiles that are used for single season use that are cheap, but they really decrease the chance to add bacteria to the tree. There are also plastic taps that are the go-to now, especially for a line system, and there's still the old metal taps that last forever, and they are the most durable choice. There are also different size taps, and more often now people are going for the smaller 5/16 inch tap that does less damage to the tree. But the idea is the same no matter what tap you're using. To drill a hole in the tree that is the size of the spile that you are using at a slight upward angle so the sap flows down and out from the tree. The depth should be about 1.5 to 2 inches. Once the sap is running, there are different ways to collect it. There are still enough people that use buckets to collect sap, but not too many with the old metal buckets. The traditional possible lead-made buckets are replaced with food-safe containers with plastic lids to fit their size. Without covers, extra moisture would be added, and that would increase the cooking time significantly. With buckets or the more commonly used plastic bags, you have to gather the sap, and this can be a back strengthening activity. You also need somewhat heavy equipment to haul this sap if you're going to be doing larger quantities of it. With plastic tubing to carry the sap, you eliminate some of the hard work if everything is running well. But there are plenty of things that can happen. Lots of wildlife love the sweet sap that is running through the lines, and you may have a chewed line that will halt your whole operation. The line can also be pulled apart from deer, bear, or other critters. When the lines work as planned, it is a beautiful thing. However the sap is gathered, it does need to be cooked down somewhat quick, before it may start to spoil and ruin the taste of your finished product. There are a variety of ways to turn sap into syrup. You can use an advanced centrifuge system, reverse osmosis, or the most common, an evaporator system. Here's a little bit more simple evaporating pan. You just have a lower pan that's boiling the sap, and an upper pan that's sort of warming up and then dropping the sap into the lower pan. This system's pretty easy. The idea is to heat the sap, lift up the steam, and you're left with deliciousness. There are much more advanced evaporator systems with automated controls and pans that are specifically designed to increase your evaporation and decrease the time to boil your sap down to syrup.
And then the more folds you have in it, the more fire you get into the pan. And that's the idea with the evaporator. Trying to transfer that heat from the fire into the pan.
The lower cooking pan has different stages as the sap works to a higher sugar content as it flows through. It requires fuel to evaporate 40 gallons of sap into 1 gallon of syrup. Usually this fuel is in the form of firewood, which adds to the work. Sap can be boiled down right in your house on the kitchen stove, but there is a considerable amount of sticky, messy steam that comes off during this process. So you can boil the sap right outdoors over a turkey fryer or an open flame, but the best is if you have a sugar shack. The sugar shack is the perfect place to visit while you take in the sweet smells of sap as it boils. There are specific ways to test that your sap has become syrup. The first is notice and change of color to amber. The temperature has risen to 7 degrees above the boiling point of water, and you can check the density with a hydrometer.
I'm looking for it to float to the red line. There's the cold temperature is the bottom line. When it's cold, it'll float that high, right here, that red line. And then when it's boiling, it floats, because it's less viscous, it'll float to the top line.
As the temperature nears 219, it is best to get the syrup off the evaporator pan and to finish cooking over a more controllable heat source.
Usually it should go off. Let's see, it's going up to 215. Okay.
What is that?
It's defoamer.
Once you have syrup, it needs to be filtered to get rid of sugar sand or other impurities that may cause it to spoil or added texture that you don't want to eat.
just widen up. There's holes that pump the syrup through. And then everything closes.
Filtrate is added to the syrup to act as a bonding agent to get rid of all the impurities.
And then the finished syrup comes out right here.
Oh, that's the stuff we want. Just in case we have waffles.
Go around the other side and get some syrup on your waffle. Sure, he's coming to get syrup on his waffle.
Can't get fresher than that. Wow.
Kind of funny.
So that's how you make whiskey.
Good syrup.
Syrup can also be filtered through coffee filters with small batches, or it can be filtered through a t-shirt or a cheesecloth. Either way, once you have filtered syrup and it's canned, it can last for a long period of time. Unfortunately, the season for gathering sap does not last for a long period of time. Once the maple leaves start budding, you have to pull the taps, or once the taps just dry out themselves, your season's over, and you have to wait till next year.
That was a lot of work.
Don't get the back side. You look like I cleaned my fingers.
Yours looks heavier than mine.